Good morning, beloveds. I'm being distracted by the cat. He's getting the back of his neck scritched and he likes it. And then he moves. He's still there. He just rolled over. So, all right. This sounds like an Ernest Holmes title today. It is January 9th. Our title is The Changeless Abides With Me. The first quote is, "For I am the Lord, I change not." And that is Malachi 3:6. The second quote is, "Immovable is God alone and rightly alone. For it itself is in itself and by itself and round itself, completely full and perfect." And that is from the writings of Hermes. All right. We should realize that all the great scriptures have taught one identical message, the unity of good. All the sacred books have been inspired by the one mind. Each in its own tongue has told the story of reality. "I am the Lord, I change not," was revealed to the Hebrew mystic. To the great Chinese sage came the same message, that the Tao cannot change, and to Hermes, God is itself by itself and full and perfect. If we can add to this glorified conception the realization that this divine being is the breath of our breath, omnipresent forever within us, then we shall realize that we live in the eternal and perfect mind. As excerpt from the sacred books on the attributes of God says, there are no variableness in God, since God is eternal, immortal, and infinite. Nevertheless, it is that from which every transformation arises. This means that while we live in the eternal God who does not change, we are forever drawing from it the possibility of the manifold expression which give variety to existence and which make living interesting. "I know that the changeless abides with me. I am calm and peaceful in the midst of confusion. I know that nothing disturbs my spirit. Peace, infinite peace, is at the center of my being. I live, move, and have my being in that which is perfect, complete within itself. That self is myself." And it's E.H., Ernest Holmes. I told you that was an Ernest Holmes title. After a while, you start to recognize Ernest Holmes titles. So one of the things that makes Ernest really interesting is Ernest will tell you that he didn't create anything. Nothing was revealed to him. Basically what Ernest did was he went out and read everybody's books. That's what he loved to do, was to read. And he read everything he could get his hands on. He has quoted from numerous sacred traditions around the world. And that's kind of where Ernest Holmes kind of jumped off. He went, you know what? The words are a little different, but everybody is saying the same thing. So the two things that Ernest Holmes kind of went, you know what? I've noticed. One, Jesus has this very specific way of praying. And two, Ernest, if you read all of the sacred texts around the world, they all kind of have the same message. They may use slightly different terminology, but they all say the same thing. And that's what he's talking about today. What he's talking about is that all of the sacred texts that he has read all say there's one. There's this infinite variety that comes from this one, but this one is unchanging. Now, why is the fact that the one is unchanging super important? Because that means that it's going to respond to each and every one of us exactly the same. God don't play favorites. That is what Ernest is saying. God does not play favorites, which means we get into it what we put out of it. We get out of it what we put into it. Sorry, got those backwards. And it means that the more aware of how the process works, the more successful we will be. Because God does not change. God doesn't look at us and go, oh, well, you're struggling a little bit. Maybe I need to give you a little bit more. Or, oh, you're doing fantastic. Maybe I need to take a little bit away. God does not do that. God just is. So there's never any judgment. God always responds exactly the same way to each and every one of us. So I've been seeing, Leslie, forgive me. I think it's Leslie Goodwin. She's one of the reverends on the West Coast. And what I've seen from her a couple of times is God doesn't give us what we can handle. God gives us what we are. Now, if that doesn't rock you back on your heels, that can be a good thing, right? Because it means you've done your spiritual work. If it does rock you back on your heels, maybe you want to look at what you believe about yourself and God. And that's one of the things that Ernest is always talking about. It's like, look, God doesn't care what you believe about God, but how you interact with God definitely hinges on what you believe about God. And so it's a good idea to go and check, what do you believe about God? What do you think about the source of your own being? How do you interact with the source of your own being? We are called to be co-creators in our lives. We are called to learn the process and work the process. We are not called to just sit here and be, what we are. Now, I have made the argument that we're human beings, not human doings, but you know what I'm talking about. So I think that in some ways it's extraordinarily comforting to realize that God doesn't play favorites. To understand when Reverend Jesse talks about that patterning intelligence that Ernest Holmes talks about. It's like, God isn't a personality. God isn't sitting in a big chair. God isn't judging us going, well, you could do a little bit more. Let me make this a little harder for you. I don't want to believe in that kind of God. I don't. But a patterning intelligence that responds to me the way I respond to it, that I can get behind. One of my teachers, Mioke, who is a Buddhist archbishop now, by the way, when she became that Buddhist priest, she said, I missed the warm, fuzzy side of God. And then I realized that part of God I had to find for myself. And when you look around at life, that's where the warm, fuzzy part of God is. It's in your daily interactions. That's the variety of life, So, let God be what God is, which is the ultimate reality. But God is also the source of our own being, the ground of our being, where we can go when we don't know what to do, where we can go to get to know ourselves, where we can go to learn the process to become more fully who we are. All right. Sometimes you wonder, all right, Ernest, did I just go a completely different direction than you intended? Who knows? And I do say, what's going on in your life makes a difference on how you will read these things. It's January. The weather keeps doing this. So, what Ernest wants to remind us is, if we can add to this glorified conception the realization that this divine being is the breath of our breath, omnipresent, forever within us, then we shall realize that we live in the eternal and perfect mind. If you go back and read Rumi, I think it's Rumi, it could be Hafiz, but Rumi, closer to us than our jugular vein, closer to us than our next breath, because our next breath is that breath. The breath that animates us is God. So go and live your life as if that which powers you is the ultimate good, because it is. You on a mission today? There you go. Go and live your life as if that which powers you is the ultimate good. That's our mission if we choose to accept it. because it's the truth. That it is absolutely what Ernest believes. It is absolutely what Ernest teaches. That which animates us is the ultimate good. Why not live our lives that way? Why not live our lives that way? All right. And then the second part, I like to give you the mission. It's just whatever I've learned that day. And then the second part is to remind you to do the spiritual practice of doing something loving for yourself, doing something kind for yourself, doing something compassionate for yourself. And for me, it comes with the reminder that, it's that time of year. The days are a little short. I may not be getting as much sunlight as I would like. Seasonal affect disorder is a real thing. And so the goal today is to be gentle with myself and understand, okay, maybe I don't feel like it today, but some stuff's got to get done. And I can not beat myself up over the stuff that I'm not getting done. And to make an effort to get a little more extra bright light, a little more extra sunlight, and just breathe and get through it. So, yeah. So deep breath, take a nap, take a walk, go to bed a little early. Remember that you probably should silence the apps on your phone when you're doing a live stream, but it's okay if you don't. Cause then you just have random sounds in your live stream that make people go, what is happening with her phone? And I know what is happening with my phone. So, and so I talk about the spiritual practice of love, kind, compassion. I want you to practice on yourself because I want you to create that habit. I want you to create that default setting. I want you to practice on yourself because you are your own best test subject. But it's also about making room for joy, especially when you don't feel like it. That's why one of my mottos is eat dessert first. And I do literally mean that. Occasionally you should eat dessert first. But I also mean that as the metaphor that it sounds like, don't save the good stuff. We never know how much time we have. So sleep on the good sheets. Use the good blankets. Use the good china. Drink the good juice. Don't save it for another time. Do it now. Okay. All right. Remember that when you plug in, you are plugging into an infinite source of love, kindness, and compassion. All right. When you practice on yourself, 1, you are plugging into that source, and 2, you're creating a bank that you can go to anytime you need a little extra, or you meet people that need a little extra. All right. It's January. I did mention seasonal affect disorder. There are a whole lot of people walking around who aren't even aware that that's what's going on. They need a little extra bright light. And if you've got it, share it. So practice on yourself. As they say on the airplane, put your mask on, put your oxygen mask on, and then help your neighbor. Okay. Practice on yourself. All right. I do encourage you to do something to engage your mind and your body. There's so much about that. I'm just going to let it go. Drink plenty of water. Hydration is super important. Your brain works better that way. Get that early in your day bright light. I encourage you to get a little extra bright light in the darker season, for reasons already stated. But it does reset that hormone balance. And there are a lot of hormones that it affects. It does affect your serotonin and your melatonin and your, all of that. So, get that early in your day bright light, be it natural or artificial. And then do try and get, if you can, even if you're up way before the sun, when the sun does come up, go get some early morning sun on your face. That can go a long way to helping with any of the things that I mentioned earlier. Even if you have to bundle up and just have your face exposed, 5 minutes. Try. Okay. And then in the words of Ernest Holmes, open the windows of your soul. Allow the breath of heaven to remind you do live in heaven right here, right now, even when it doesn't feel like it. Okay? Heaven is a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness, which means that once we learn how to create it, we can get back there easier. I recommend practicing love, kindness, and compassion on yourself every day because I want you to create that groove in your mind so that you can drop into it at a moment's notice. Well, heaven is the same thing. Once you have learned how to get there, it gets easier and easier and easier. So, and opening the window of your soul can happen in so many variety of ways. And love is always the best place to start. Or you can take Emma's advice and look for the good and praise that, which is still a form of love. So, we're not going to quibble the details here. But try it. Try it. It is just, yes, it is a superpower, but it is a superpower that each and every one of us already has. The world tries to convince us that we don't, and we get to learn that we do. Okay. I think that I'm at the place where I just remind you that we are Creative Life Spiritual Center and Creative Life Spark on the social medias that we are on. I'm the running Rev Ryan on the social medias that I am on. And so there's a lot of great content. Please check it out. We try and update it regularly. So yeah, especially if you are having a moment where you need a little something, go look at the wide variety of playlists that I have, on the running, on the Creative Life. I've got Jesse divided by month and year. I've got, guest speakers. You can, there's multiple ways to find what you're looking for. So please avail yourself of that. And if you want to know what's going on with the center, email info@creativelife.org. That can get you on the constant contact. And the hot links in that are hot. If it says click here now, it will either take you right to the information you want, or it will take you to the person that will help you get it. Okay. So that's how you figure out what's going on with Creative Life. All right. Yeah. I think I'm at the place where, I say this every day. I say, have a great day. Some days I'm not feeling it. And you can always tell on those days that I really am not feeling it, but I say it anyway. Because it's worth trying. Even if you don't feel like it, try. Try. And maybe you don't have a great day. Maybe you just have a good day, but you made an effort. And that's what we're looking for. In the long run, the more often we try, the better we'll get at it. All right. So I am going to encourage you to have a great day, a wondrous day, a fantastic day, a magical day, an enchanted day, a wonder-filled day, an awesome day, a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious day, a get things started day, a welcome to the week day, a everything's back to normal-ish day, the holidays meaning, a good day. And if that is too much pressure, simply have a day because you are enough just as you are. All right. I say this every day for a reason. You are a beloved child of God in whom God is well pleased and well represented. All right. You are a divine spark. You are a brilliant light. You are God in action. You are spirit in motion. You are a godling. Know the truth of your own being. Visit the source of your own being on a regular basis and get to know yourself on a deeper level. And then you can do things like encourage people to have a great day. You can practice love, kindness, and compassion on yourself and others. Make it a well-worn path to the source of your own being. All right. So now is the part where I remind you Reverend David should be on around 5 p.m. with you. I will be back with you around 9 a.m. tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Know that you are loved, and I will see you next time.